Hi, my name is David P. Shapiro. I'm the owner and managing partner of the law office of David P. Shapiro, located in San Diego, California, where my firm helps good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. And San Diego, California, as well as Buffalo and New York, have sort of been at the center of some sports news and more important than anything related to sports, a pretty disturbing news story that came out late August into early September regarding former Buffalo Bills punter and San Diego State punter, former San Diego State punter Matt Araiza, and sexual assault allegations made against him as well as some other players at the time of San Diego State. And it's really received local and national media attention because of Araiza's status, because of some things that the attorneys were saying and doing in the media, as well as because of the nature of sexual assault, the nature of what we saw from Deshaun Watson and everything with the Cleveland Browns, so on and so forth. But I think it's important in this video really to outline where we are in the process, what this means for Matt Araiza, what potential criminal charges he could still be facing, and what impact, if any, this civil case that has been filed against him and many others could have on the possibility of him facing criminal charges. Well, really, from a criminal defense standpoint, there's really a couple of things in play. First is, by his own admission, he appears to have admitted to have some sort of sexual relationship, at least on one occasion, with his accuser. And the issue then falls into, we see a lot about, well, didn't he just admit that it was statutory rape? Well, maybe. But the issue then goes into what he knew, what he reasonably believed, how old he reasonably believed his accuser was at the time the two of them had sex, or at the time the two of them did something of a sexual nature. And that's where, the investigation comes into play. That's where how old this individual was representing she was or was not to people at that party, on social media, so on and so forth, goes into whether or not there's a legitimate case of statutory rape, no matter what you believe about consent, whether it was forcible sex, whether it was consensual sex. The bottom line is, if she's under 18, he could be prosecuted for statutory rape, but there is that defense of good faith or reasonable belief that she was in fact 18 or over. But I think the bigger issue, and certainly the more disturbing issue in all this, are the accusations that this was some sort of a forcible rape, or at the very least a rape of an intoxicated person, basically where she could not consent, whether she was 17, whether she was 18, whether she was 38, could not consent due to her level of intoxication, whether by drugs, alcohol, or just flat out being unconscious or unable to consent. And then there's also the injuries that she's alleged to have sustained at the hands of Araiza and the other individuals for whom she's accused of raping her. So, when we're dealing with the forcible rape situation, a lot more time is at stake if he were to be charged and convicted. And also, there's multiple components that could make this arguably a lifetop case, meaning where he could be facing life in prison if he's charged and convicted, if certain elements are pled and ultimately proven in court. So it's really interesting. Now, what we have is this is an incident that occurred in 2021. We're almost a year into this investigation, assuming it's going to be interesting to see what, if anything, comes of it because of this media attention, because of the attention that the civil case is garnered, because now that the eyes of the sports world, the eyes of the United States, the eyes of a sports fan, the eyes of anyone in Buffalo, in New York, in San Diego, throughout the coast, nationwide, is looking to see what, if anything, that San Diego Police Department and or the District Attorney's Office is going to do, assuming their decision has not already been made and their minds already been made up. And just to be clear, even if they don't go that route, even if they were not to prosecute Araiza or any of the other two individuals, doesn't necessarily mean something didn't happen. It doesn't even necessarily mean something didn't happen that was wrong and certainly terrible. What it means is it's a case that they believe they cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And, there's a lot of speculation on why that may be. Not really worth getting into it for purposes of this video and based on the limited information we have at this point in time. But he is certainly not out of the woods yet, nor are the other two individuals. And it's important that every single thing they do, every single thing they say moving forward in the civil case, but also on social media, also through their attorneys, also through their family members, that, they really think about what impact this could have on a criminal investigation, what impact this could have on a potential juror in the civil case, or if the case ultimately proceeds to criminal court. And it's not just, well, was it a forcible rape? That's one option. Was it a rape of an intoxicated or unconscious person? That's a second whole charge here that they're facing or could be facing. And then the third option, even if they can't get them on the other two, the forcible rape or the rape of an unconscious or intoxicated person, possibly the statutory rape charge, but then that goes into what his reasonable belief or what the reasonable belief of the other individuals was or was not. So first off, a very alarming, something that unfortunately universities, colleges, society in general has not been able to eradicate these types of actions, assuming it is true, and certainly an allegation that needs to be taken seriously by attorneys, by society as a whole. But it is important to remind everyone of the presumption of innocence. And just because someone has said something, just because someone has appeared to timely have reported a crime, and just because someone has shown pictures of their bruised neck and their bruised body, does not necessarily mean that Araiza or any of the other individuals are criminally responsible for those injuries or for those allegations. So there's a time and a place where that will get flushed out in a courtroom if the case were to proceed to criminal court. So it's important that everyone obviously make their own judgment, but make sure that they weigh everything that they have before really condemning someone on either side one way or the other. It's definitely something we're going to follow up on based on our connection here to San Diego, based on my personal connection to Buffalo and New York as well. So it's a really bi-coastal scene going on, even though he's no longer a member of the Bills. The Bills are certainly not off the hook as far as they did when they knew it, what they knew when they made those decisions. San Diego State is certainly not off the hook as far as what, if any, cover-up there may or may not have been, what they knew, whether or not they allowed him to continue to play, continue to be a part of that team, if they even knew it was him to begin with. That was one of these individuals accused of this back in 2021. And then also, what was San Diego police doing? What had the district attorney's office been doing? And how the civil case is going to play out. So really, really interesting things. An unfortunate situation for all people involved here, but a really interesting case here in San Diego that we're going to continue to monitor. You can always follow the firm, social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. By all means, we're going to continue to monitor on YouTube videos. Any questions you have about this case, anything related to sexual assault specifically, particularly in San Diego, feel free to give my firm a call, 619-295-3555. Again, Law Office of David P. Shapiro, San Diego Criminal Defense Attorney, 619-295-3555.